403. I'd like to recognize and thank UAW President Shawn Fain for spending time with us in these crucial final hours of negotiations. I also want to thank Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who always stands 10 toes down on the side of workers and working families. A big thank you to our speakers, Joseph Givargis, Executive Director of Our Revolution, Sunrise Movement Organizer, Shiva Raj Bandari, Josh Gondelman, East Council member of the Writers Guild of America, and Toledo Assembly Plant worker, Jermaine Lamb. A special thank you to our allies and co-sponsors for tonight, Center for Popular Democracy Action, Detroit Action, Jobs with Justice, Move On, Olay, Our Revolution, People's Action, SCIU, Standing Up for Racial Justice, Sunrise Movement, and the United We Dream Action. We are here tonight for two reasons. The first is corporate greed. The big three automakers are raking in record profits, and that prosperity has not been shared with workers. It's yet another data point in the lie that there is trickle-down economics that trickles down to all of us, and the numbers don't lie. The big three have taken in billions of dollars in profit and have rewarded their CEOs with obscene amounts of money in the process. Meanwhile, the people who are directly responsible for those record profits have seen their wages fail to keep up with inflation. We're also here because we are in this together. Whether you're a writer trying to make it in Hollywood, a barista with big dreams at Starbucks, or working at a plant in order to assemble the cars that line our streets, you deserve a fair deal. And let me be clear, at the heart of this are the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we allow others to tell about us. There are members of the press and chaos agents on social media that will cynically and falsely try to portray this as a story of worker greed. They'll seize on the fact that UAW workers are asking for a 40% increase without noting skyrocketing CEO pay. The bosses want us squabbling over crumbs to distract us from the other 99% of the pie that workers rightfully deserve. Auto companies have been recipients of billions of our money, both to keep them afloat in catastrophic times and to support a green energy transition. Those public dollars are not for CEO pocketbooks, they're for all of us. That is the story. And our job is to give people that story, a narrative that says we can have control of our communities and our workplaces. A story that says we can all eat and we can eat well without fighting for crumbs and punching down on others who have less. This is our mission. And it's a mission President Fain outlined on CNN the other day. And I don't know if the anchor was a supporter throwing a softball question or doing the work of the bosses when she asked, what would you say to workers who want a 40% raise? And without hesitation, President Fain calmly replied, they should join a union. Comrades, friends, that is why this fight and the fight of the Hollywood writers, the Starbucks workers, and every other worker organizer, it's so critical and so important. The more we fight, the more we win. The more we inspire others to do the same, and it continues on and on. That's why the historic deal the Teamsters won last month for UPS workers is a big deal. Each win puts more wind in the sails of workers and worker power. And when the UAW wins, it'll provide momentum for the next fight. When we win these fights, we show people that coalitions built on multi-generational, multiracial solidarity work. When we win, we take back our communities, we take back our workplaces and defeat the bosses. I want to thank you all again for joining us tonight and pass the mic to my friend and comrade, Brandon Snyder, Executive Director of Detroit Action.
Thanks, Maurice. Good evening, folks, and what up, though, to everybody in Detroit. My name is Brandon Snyder. I'm the Executive Director at Detroit Action. We're a grassroots, community-based organization dedicated to fighting for working class people, fighting for economic justice, housing, and racial justice here in Michigan. Funny enough, Detroit Action, we call ourselves a little union for the hood because of our focus on empowering the working class. It's an homage to the labor movement and to unions like the UAW who have played and continue to play a role in lifting up Black, brown, and low-income families economically. I was born and raised in a union household. My family, like so many others, moved to Detroit in the 1930s and 40s for good jobs, good neighborhoods, and good schools. Those good jobs and good neighborhoods were created because labor unions like the UAW fought for them. Detroit has such a rich history as a union town, dating back to the early 20th century when the UAW was founded. The city has been a beacon of hope for countless families, particularly Black workers who migrated from the South to find better opportunities. Since Detroit became known as the Motor City, unions have been instrumental in securing fair wages, fair, safe working conditions, and access to healthcare and education for generations of Detroiters. And that's why we're all here today, to stand in solidarity with the auto workers who are demanding fair compensation for their hard work and dedication. These workers are the backbone of Detroit and cities and towns across the country. Their fight for better working conditions, not only for themselves, but also for future generations of workers. It's now my distinct honor to introduce our guest speaker today, Representative Rashida Tlaib. Representative Tlaib, Rashida, as she likes to be called, Representative Tlaib, has been a tireless champion of the working class, not only in the city of Detroit, but across the nation. She understands the struggles of the working class, particularly those from marginalized communities, and are deeply intertwined with the fight for economic justice. She has consistently advocated for policies that uplift working families, supporting initiatives to expand home ownership opportunities, to reduce racial and social and economic segregation in our nation's schools, and restore the rights of workers with the PRO Act. Representative Tlaib knows that unions are a cornerstone of economic empowerment, and she has been a vocal advocate for workers' rights, fair wages, and better conditions for all. Thank you, Representative Tlaib, for your unwavering dedication for the working class, and thank you for being here to support our courageous UAW comrades.
Thank you so much to Brandon, who has been a brother in this fight, not only in Detroit, really across the country. Right here, I always say to folks, and Brandon's heard me say this over and over again, but Detroit births movement. And you can see Detroit Action on the ground every single day, trying to fight over assessment of property taxes, making sure people are not kicked out of their homes for less than $1,000 because they can't afford the inflated taxes. They're out there again fighting poverty in every corner of our neighborhoods. And I cannot thank them enough for their courage in showing up to council meetings in the state legislature and so much more. And, you know, fighting for the American dream, but really fighting for human dignity for so many of our families. You all know I am the daughter of the UAW. We're going to talk about the grandson of the UAW soon, but I'll tell you, as the daughter of the UAW, when I say I'm the daughter of the UAW, growing up with a father who, with a fourth grade education, came to the United States at 19 years old, you know, different language. He had a different faith that folks weren't familiar with, ethnicity. And he got on that assembly line in Downriver in Flat Rock, Michigan at Ford Motor Company. And it makes me sometimes tear up, but he said, Bubba, that was the first time that I ever felt human dignity. And I said, why? He goes, because it didn't matter where I came from and what education level I had or what my faith was. On that line, we were one. We were one against corporate greed. We were one against those that want to literally extract from us our bodies, anything to, again, make a profit on the backs of our families. And so, you know, it is funny that a lot of folks know I'm the eldest of 14, and they always say to me, well, I think it was Michael Moore, famous filmmaker. He said to me one time, Rashida, how did you get straight teeth? And I said, and I smile widely as I can, and I say, the UAW. That's how I got straight teeth, because they fought for dental coverage. At the time when I remember we got dental coverage, my dad lined us up and we all went to the dentist for the first time. I mean, this is what being part of labor movement is about, being able to take care of your families. And so I'm proud to be able to join President Fain in this fight to really humanize what the impact has been on our labor force, especially UAW workers who have sacrificed so much, y'all, for our economy, to keep the big three afloat since 2009. And now that they make record profits, they're leaving the workers behind. And I've seen it over and over again. I never want to hear neighbors that are working in the auto industry, especially because we're subsidizing them, we're trying to help them with this transition and everything, talk about, well, I got to go to the food bank line, or I got to work a weekend shift and I can't spend time with my family because the only way I can make ends meet is working 7 days a week. And so we are now blessed that we have a grandson of the UAW, someone that has understood the stories like mine that I share. He's lived it. He's lived it through his lens of his grandparents, being part of the UAW and seeing what was possible again for workers in the United States. I was at a plant in Trenton, at a local hall in Trenton, and I could see the sea of workers out there, different ages, y'all. I mean, some in late 50s, still working, back hurting, just tired and so upset. Because in 2009, they said, you know what, we're going to get a cost of living adjustment. We're going to take it out. We're going to create these tiers. We're going to do all this. And, some people are not going to be able to get pensions, all this stuff. And the workers said, okay, we're going to help you all. We're going to take this hit. That was 2009. It is 2023. And every single contract since 1948, look it up, has had cost of living adjustment, had COLA. That's just one example. It had COLA, y'all, until 2009. We are in 2023 and we got to beg. We got to beg people making billions of dollars to say we got to have cost of living adjustment, especially now when we know inflation is killing our families. To think that I met a young girl on the east side of Detroit working at Stellantis telling me it took 10 years. This little girl understood 10 years for her father to get on top of the tier. People don't understand these tiers. You don't get the vest and the benefits. My dad, 90 days. Y'all, that was in the 80s. We're in 2023. And you're telling people 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you may be able to get on top of that tier. Doing the same job as anybody else. They should be getting paid the same wages. What I love about President Fain right now is, sometimes he does these speeches. He said, how'd it go? I call that one ready to rumble speech, or I call that we've had it speech, or what's the other one? I love the one where he basically says something like record profits, record contracts. He is consistent in repeating what the workers are saying. Because I'll tell you, I got elected in 2019, y'all. I went into union halls and they told me what was going on with tiers. I said, no way. The American people actually don't know that this happened. If I'm getting elected in 2019 and I'm starting to hear about the impact of tiers, imagine the rest of the country. They are now for the first time hearing there's no cost of living adjustment in these contracts. There's no, wait a minute, you don't get a pension? Everybody knows if you worked at the big three, you got a pension or retirement or got to retire with human dignity. What has happened? What has happened is they have taken advantage at a time in 2009 and thinking they can go ahead and keep riding that train. Well, I'm sorry. We're enough. That's enough. It is enough that they keep continuing, again, making profits, banking off the backs of our workers. And President Fain, and understanding that, not only from coming from the Midwest, we really rule when it comes to movements and labor. He understands from Indiana down to the West Coast to everywhere that what needs to happen. Because if the grandson of the UAW remembered how it used to be, and the daughter of the UAW remembers how it used to be, and we're in 2023, and we're seeing us going backwards, he understands what's at stake. And like he says, this is not some sort of deadline next week. This is not, reference point. It's literally like the day either you're with us and you're going to support the request of the workers that had your back in 2009, or you don't. And so I just really appreciate President Fain. Again, he has been at plants. He has been in local halls. He has marched. He has done practice strikes. He's on the ground. And I love watching him, even when it's really long days, stay until he's talked to every single worker in that hall. And that's the kind of leadership he brings to this movement. And he brings the urgency that I think all of us have been waiting for in regards to where we can go with the UAW. So I really appreciate it. With that, I'm so proud to be introducing President Fain.
Thank you, Congresswoman Tlaib. Thank you for all your work, and Maurice and Brandon and everyone, just for inviting me on here. It's exciting. It's an honor to be on here with all of you. And, we are 5 days away. And at this point, I'll tell you, we're 4 days away. This day's pretty much hit. And, I'd like to tell you things are moving quicker than they are. We've been meeting through the weekend. I spent the morning at GM and the afternoon at Ford, and heading to Stellantis tomorrow morning. But, things are moving, but they're moving very slow. And we got a long way to go in 4 days. And, but our membership's energized. I mean, I'm excited. We just had our first direct election in our union's history. And with the new slate of new leaders coming in, myself being one of them, it's the first time, we've really been able to, really the memberships had elected their top leaders and had people that represent their interests and put that number one. Not to say people in the past haven't, but direct elections hold leadership accountable. And I've always been an advocate for that. So it's great to see that happen. And, the thing we've done, I wish I would have had a year. I wish we would have got this election done a year ago, but it's pretty tough being sworn in at the end of March and running a bargaining convention the very next day. And basically at that point, we were already in the planning stages of this fight that we're in now. So, we've done a hell of a lot in 5 months, brought in some new faces, some new people, some fresh ideas. And we've ran our first contract campaign with the membership. It's never been done in my 29 years as a UAW member. Typically, we go into a contract, we just have our demands and we wait and see what happens, and we figure it out, at the deadline. And I'm very proud of the work that so many people have put into this, and our Congress people that have supported us, like Rashida and Debbie Dingles, and just so many of the different reps we've had out there, Haley Stevens, that have, they're in a fight with us. And, and that's one of the biggest things we've done differently too. When we talk about endorsements and stuff is, the people that are there, the people that are there for you, that are in the fight with you. And, I'm always proud to stand with these reps and these leaders, because that's what they are. They're leaders. They don't forget their roots. And that's what this moment's all about. I say this over and over publicly and to our members. This is our generation's defining moment. And everything we do at this moment is going to affect not just the UAW, it's going to affect many workers in the working class throughout the whole spectrum. And not just us at this moment, it's going to affect generations to come. UAW jobs used to be the gold standard. The big three jobs were when you got a job at the big three, it meant something. It was life-changing, and you knew you were going to be set for life, and not just your work life, but through retirement. And that's no longer the case now. Our workers that hired in since 2007 do not have pensions. They do not have post-retirement health care. It took them years, many of them 10 years, to get to full pay. And so, this round of bargaining, we made a lot of sacrifices during the Great Recession. And this round of bargaining, we're asking for double-digit increases in pay. We're asking for cost of living to be reinstated. We're asking for a return to our job security provisions that were suspended during the Great Recession. We're asking for retirement security for the majority of our members. The majority of our members in Big Three do not have any retirement security. And we're asking for security in this transition to electric vehicles. We support a green economy. We have to get behind this. We have to have a plan that we can live on. Anyone that doesn't understand where we are in this, in the green economy battle, hasn't looked outside lately, in my opinion. Clean air and clean water, we need it to live. And so, but the biggest part of this with the transition to EVs and the green economy is we expect this not to be a race to the bottom, and that's what it is right now. It has to be a just transition. And the craziest part of this, is our tax dollars are funding a massive portion of this transition to electric vehicles. And on top of that, 20% of our workers in the big three are powertrain workers that work on either engines or transmission type work. If we don't secure this work, and we don't secure it at a living standard, at big three standards, it's not going to be a good future for anyone. And so, I talk about, how our tax dollars are funding a big portion of this transition, just as back in the economic recession, our tax dollars again bailed these companies out. And the sad irony in this is our tax dollars bail these companies out. And at the end of the day, the workers make all the sacrifices, and then they get left behind. So we are in the fight of our lives, with the biggest threat to the working class, to the poor, and to our communities and our nations, and that's corporate greed. It's what's driving inflation. You look at vehicle prices. It's interesting. People say, oh, if we bargain for these things and we get these things, it's going to drive up the cost of vehicles. The price of vehicles in the big three and overall have went up 30% in the last 4 years. Our wages went up 6%. Inflation went up over 19%. We went backwards. But there's one group that didn't go backwards. The CEO's pay went up 40%. And again, we talk about this. Labor costs equate to less than 10% of the cost of those vehicles, of building a vehicle. Companies could double our wages and not raise prices and still make billions in profits. So, look at since the pandemic, sales of vehicles have been down, but profits have went through the roof. And, we ask people, how does that happen? It's one simple thing. It's corporate greed. It's price gouging. And now, in retrospect, now that we're asking for our fair share, the companies want to blame the workers for these prices. It's ridiculous. They've made $250 billion, $250 billion in the last decade. The big three have made $21 billion in the first 6 months of this year. And that's why our battle cry for this set of bargaining is record profits should equal record contracts. You go back to the sacrifices our members have made over the years. During the Great Recession, we were blamed for everything that was wrong with these companies. Everything that happened was put on the backs of the workers. And so we made tons of sacrifices. We lost cost of living allowance. We lost all the job security provisions. Caps on temporary workers were lifted. We created all these different tiers of workers who do the same job on the same line for all different rates of pay. It's ridiculous how far back we've regressed. We are 14 years away from the Great Recession and a decade of massive profits, and our workers are still going backwards. Our workers, our members were declared essential during COVID. Our workers put their lives on the line to build vehicles and to deliver. And some of our members lost their lives through that battle. And, it goes back to recently, one of my favorite sayings I've heard was Jon Stewart. He said, when corporations fail, you pay for it. But when they succeed, it's all theirs. They socialize their losses and they privatize their profits. I go back and back to that because that is such a true statement of what the hell has been going on in this country and with our economy for over 40 years now. One COO for Stellantis, recently had the audacity to state, as he sat in his second multi-million-dollar mansion in Acapulco, that the workers needed to accept economic realism. And the economic realism they want us to accept is the companies make billions in profits. The CEOs and the upper leaders of these companies make millions in salaries, and everybody else can scrape paycheck to paycheck to get by, and all this is due for one reason. So some asshole like Elon Musk can shoot himself out into outer space. I don't care about that. It does nothing for society. It does nothing for this world to make this a better world. So, now you've got the companies and their corporate media sponsors that carry their water that are doing what they do best. Now they're trying to make everybody fear how if the workers get their share of economic and social justice, it's going to wreck the economy. You know, they say a strike in the big three will cost this economy $5 billion a week. And you know what I'd say to that is, I'm damn glad that somebody finally recognizes the value that's created by our members' work. You know, and it's really interesting. You look, there's a really similar parallel to this time. And you go back to the end of the Second World War, and back in 1945, inflation during the war had soared to 45%. And so basically, you know, it rendered, you know, worker pay increases completely meaningless. And back in August, during the war, there was a wage increase cap that was imposed by the government. And so in 45, President Truman lifted the wartime 15% wage increase cap. And within days of that move, Walter Reuther announced to GM that the UAW wanted a 30% increase. And he demanded that GM do this without raising the prices of vehicles. And these claims were even backed at that time by the director of the Office of Economic Stabilization, who confirmed that the auto industry at that time could afford a 50% pay increase without raising new car prices. And there's a quote that Reuther said back then. It really summed up everything then, and it sums up exactly where we are now. But Reuther stated that, and I'll quote this: "The economic facts of life prove that wages can be increased without increasing prices. Increased production must be supported by increased consumption, which is possible only through wage increases. The industry can pay higher wages out of the high profits it is making." I mean, that's the end of the quote. You take that quote and put that in today's terms. It is exactly where we are today. So, you know, when the talking heads speak about our economy and they speak about worker justice wrecking the economy, it's not that we're going to wreck the economy. It's that we're going to wreck their economy. And that's what people need to understand. That's what they're talking about. They don't give a damn about the economy we're all living. They just don't want to interrupt their economy. So, you know, our members have high expectations, you know, and a decade of record profits will drive that. And you know, our union has a recent history in the last 20 years, maybe longer, of typically in bargaining aiming low and settling lower. And throughout the campaign and since my election, you know, I made a pledge that those days of aiming low and settling lower are done. I've never heard of anybody going into bargaining asking for less and getting more. So, you know, we are done. I've heard this. Our battle cry used to be, for the 29 years I've been a member, the battle cry of our leadership was, "We'll live to fight another day." And when I hear those words, I get pissed. And those days are over. Another day is here, and this is our time, and it's our generation's defining moment. And so we're here to claim it. And we are on the right side of this fight. And it's time for everybody to pick a side, politicians included. It's you're either with the billionaire class or you're with the working class and the poor. And I know what the right side of that is. And so, you know, our time is now. And if we don't get our justice, I can guarantee you one thing: come this Thursday at midnight, there will be action. So, you know, I encourage you to stay tuned, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on here, and look forward to more dialogue. Thanks.
Thank you, President Fain. And next, you know, you talked about the sacrifice of the workers of UAW. Next, we have one of those workers, Jeremy Lamb, who's a Toledo assembly plant worker, who will tell us from the ground the sacrifices and the fight that has to continue on.
Good afternoon. Once again, thanks for having me. I'll give you a little history and a little backstory on, you know, me at the plant. I've been with Jeep for 10 years now. As of May, that was my 10th year. This will be my third contract, and each contract is a very pivotal moment as it projects our future going forward. One of the things is, I was one of those that came in at 1578 back in 2013, where most of the senior workers that were there were topped out at 28. The next contract we went into it was 15, and 15 really didn't do much for our wages. However, when we went into the 2019 contract, our senior workers took the back seat so we can get to where they were at. So that would bring us up till equal pay. However, at the same time, we still had those TPTs that were left behind, as they say. So because they weren't hiring, they're paying things and benefits like that were locked. At this current time, I don't receive a pension. I receive a 401k that's I guess 6.4% of contribution for the company, but it's kind of controlled by the way the market moves. So it's hoping that the economy stays stable enough to there's something to come out of there with, but there's no guarantee. So it's riding on hope. We in the plant, we work 6 days a week. Since I've been there in 13, we do 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Yeah, there's down periods where, we might have some slow movement, but since I've been there, we spend more time in this plant than, honestly, we do with our own families. Even, like I said, looking at the senior workers who state how, things were when they had their COLA and things like that. Of course, we don't know what it is because, we never experienced that, but to know that was something that they gave up to keep these corporations afloat and to allow them to move forward to the profitable point in which they are at now. And it's like, we did this for you, when I didn't have it, I gave it to you. So, share the bread. And, they're playing keep away. And so, looking forward, we're on a countdown, and it's been no secret to what's coming next. And the thing is, here, here on the floor, is that something we really want to do? No, but we're going to do what we have to do, because guess what? We did, we did, and, some senior did what they had to do to keep you guys afloat. And so at this point, there's no more just taking what you're going to give us. There's no more just sitting down and saying, oh, I guess that's all, all we have to get. We sit back and we watch our coworkers frustrated. We see the tears in their eyes. I mean, the parenting time that, some of you miss out, sporting events you miss out, recitals you miss out, because, you don't really have that time off, because you're in there sacrificing that time to make sure that they have the product, to put out to the people to get the profits that they have, while they sit back and they celebrate, and pop their champagnes or whatever, where, you're going to the grocery store and barely can afford to get that food to put on your table. There's no secret that, the price of things have gone up. And, some of us, it's a real struggle. This isn't a movie. This isn't an act. This isn't a scenario that, we're scripted for. This is real life. And, at this point, I think the frustration has built up so high, it's to the point like, we got to do something, and this time is now. So it's either, you're going to listen, or we're going to take a stand. And I don't, like I said, it's not something you necessarily want to do, but it's something you have to do. And, there's no backing down for what's next. So, we all stand together, and the support for each other is real. So, we have to do what we have to do, and they've done what they've had to do. So if they, think that, oh, we're going to sit down this time, it's different. It's different. We have the community to back. We back each other. And that's part of the reason, you know, for the red shirt is to show the support of the solidarity within the UAW. Because like I said, it's been a fight. You know, I mean, some simple as, you know, standing on your feet 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. I don't care what pair of shoes you got. The best pair of shoes ain't gonna hold up. So, you know, we go through things like that, you know, hands cramping, you know, you go in there aching. I mean, but with no retirement, it's like you scared to retire because it's like, when was the last time the retirees received something? They haven't. And so it's like, you know, oh, we know what the CEOs receive because they boast and they brag about it. But, you know, we have people who can barely make ends meet. So we got people who's turning to government programs to help pay utility bills, you know, to, you know, make it to the next month. So right now, said across the board, I mean, said I honestly at this point, we have nothing to lose. You have backed the cat into the corner. And so, you know, you can either work with us or you're working against us. And unfortunately, it's at that point, but you know, said this is what we got to do. What we got to do. So,
Thank you, Jermaine.
oh,
Thank you so much, Jermaine. Everybody give it up for Jermaine Lamb. He's on the front lines of this fight in Toledo. Let's give it up for President Fain. And everything that they said, we feel it everywhere. This is a time for solidarity. This time it's different. Our people are united. Community, labor, a worker anywhere. That fight is a fight for workers everywhere. Thank you so much for steeling the spine of workers everywhere. We're in this fight with you. And as I've often said, solidarity is truly a verb. We need each and every one of you to back up the UAW workers in their fight for a fair contract. Now we turn to other movement leaders to share with us what solidarity looks like and how all of our fights are connected. Your next speaker is a television writer and a member of the Writers Guild of America East Council. Please welcome Josh Gondelman.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Good evening, everyone. My name is Josh Gondelman, and like many of your other speakers tonight, I come from a union family. My mother was a teachers union member, and my father was a glazer in the Painters and Allied Trades Union. Today, I'm a member of both the Writers Guild of America and SAG-AFTRA. Film and television writers have been on strike for more than 4 months now, and performers have been on strike for almost 2. When the writers first went on strike, there was a real element of fear that our message of wanting to be compensated fairly for our work and to ensure a stable and sustainable future for our profession wouldn't break through to the public. But fortunately, those fears didn't become reality. Over the past months, working people across so many industries have stood with us. Writers, actors, crew members, sure, but also Teamsters, laborers, warehouse workers, baristas, teachers, and many, many others. Because people understand that we're all part of the same fight. We're not just writers and actors negotiating against studios. We're workers fighting to secure our fair share of the enormous profits that our work generates for these massive corporations that employ us. And that's all you're trying to do as well, right? The big 3 companies have been reaping billions and billions of dollars in profits that are funneled upwards to CEOs and executives, and profits that you generate with your hard work and expertise, UAW members. Without you, these companies truly are nothing. What you're asking for is more than reasonable. Fair compensation that provides a life and a home for yourselves and your families, and the security to be able to retire with peace of mind when you're done working. The only thing that's standing in your way is the greed of these companies, but together, your will is stronger than their avarice. If you go on strike this week when your contract expires, you will not be doing so alone. You'll have the full force of the labor movement at your side and at your back. We will be with you the way workers across America have shown up for us, and the way we've stood alongside hotel workers, flight attendants, UPS drivers, and more. Our strikes have been taxing and frustrating, certainly, but thanks in large part to the solidarity we've seen from all corners of this movement, I remain confident that we will win. You too will get the contract you deserve, and we will be cheering you on when you do. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Josh. Your next speaker is Shiva Rajbandari, a proud CWA union member. Shiva is also a freshman at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and a Green New Deal for Schools organizer with the Sunrise Movement. Shiva.
Thank you so much. And thanks to all the folks at the Working Families Party for having me here, and to the UAW for being here, and to everyone for attending. Like he said, my name is Shiva Rajbandari. I'm a climate organizer, a student, and as of last year, I'm the youngest elected school board member in this country. And I'm excited to be here with you in the fight for a better future. But I know that I wouldn't be here without unions. I remember my freshman year of high school. It was clear that this country was not prepared to face the climate crisis. And inspired by unionized workers on strike for fair contracts, I joined millions of young people across the globe to go on strike from school, demanding our leaders finally do something about global warming and mass ecocide. My friends and I, we began organizing in our community. Much like the UAW, we led with dialogue, hoping our school district would be open enough to our ideas to listen, but unfortunately they refused. So then we took to the streets. We went on strike from school, we wrote op-eds, we showed up at our school board meetings, and we garnered statewide press coverage. And our local teachers union had our back the whole way. Our board members were furious, but nevertheless, we forced our school district to pass a collective commitment on clean energy and set in motion a process to transform our facilities in the face of the climate crisis. Not only that, but the political momentum we built together in Boise allowed me to run for the school board my senior year of high school and hold the district accountable to its commitments. So as auto workers across the country stand together and fight for what they deserve, they should know that my generation, Generation Z, stands with them, that the climate justice movement stands with them, that we have their backs as they stand up to corporate greed. We all know that unions make this country stronger. And in the face of the climate crisis, we must work together for a just transition to a clean energy future where all can prosper. In the end, the fight for living wages and fair labor practices, the fight against fascism and for a government that acts in the interests of the people, and the fight against the climate crisis and the fossil fuel barons who profit off of it, these fights are all one in the same. There is no climate justice without a just transition and good paying union jobs for all workers. There is no Green New Deal without a healthy democracy where our government works for working people. Solidarity between our movements is not just raising our fists and cheering one another on. Solidarity is recognizing that there is only one movement, one collective movement fighting for a better world. And on behalf of the Sunrise Movement, and as a union member, organizer, and a human being, I'm proud to stand today with the United Auto Workers in this fight, in this movement. Hot labor summer may have just ended, but find out fall is just starting, and the big three execs are gonna find out what happens when they mess with working people. So thank you for having me. Let's do this.
Thank you, Shiva. Let's do this. Find out fall. Ask about us. Thank you so much, Shiva. Next up, we have Joseph Gevargis. Joseph is the executive director of Our Revolution. He has spent his career advocating on behalf of the working class as a union organizer, most recently as a strategist for Good Jobs Nation and the Fight for 15 and a union. Give it up for Joseph. Joseph.
Thank you, Maurice. Good evening, brothers and sisters. My name is Joseph Gevargis. I'm the executive director of Our Revolution. Bernie started Our Revolution to build a grassroots movement to make sure that our government stands on the side of working people, not the corporate class. For far too long, Democrats and Republicans stood together to push a neoliberal free trade agenda that offshored jobs and gutted the American labor movement. Brothers and sisters, that ain't right. And that's why we've stood with the UAW to fight against plant closures and layoffs at GM, Lordstown, and other factories. That's why we walked the picket lines with union members during the 2019 GM strike. And that's why we pushed the Biden administration to pass legislation to invest billions of dollars in creating good union jobs in the United States of America. Brothers and sisters, today our struggle continues. And know that our revolution members all across the country are standing in solidarity with you as you take on the big three at the bargaining table. Not only that, not only are we standing with you, but we're calling on the Biden administration to stand with you too. We're calling on President Biden to leverage this massive infusion of federal tax dollars for the green economy, for electric vehicles, to pressure the big three to honor the right to organize, to raise wages, and to hire laid off union workers, and to reopen factories. Our message to the White House is simple. Mr. President, creating green jobs is not enough. We need you to guarantee that our tax dollars create more union jobs in the United States of America. And look at, now is the time. The 2024 elections are right around the corner, and this is the opportunity for this administration to deliver on the promise to be the most pro-union administration in history. Mr. President, this is your shot to show that you're going to fight like hell for America's working class. This is a which side are you on moment, Mr. President. And our revolution members are on the side of UAW workers. We're on the side of the Working Families Party. We're on the side of Move On and Sunrise. And we are going to organize to hold our government accountable. Because you know what, brothers and sisters? When we organize, we win. Thank you, Maurice.
When we organize, we win. Thank you, Joseph. Give it up for Joseph Gevargis and all of the work that our family at Our Revolution is doing every single day. And I want to thank everybody who's joined us. And this is an organizing call, right? So we can't leave an organizing call without our action steps. So everybody get ready for a concrete action you could take right now. You could dial right now the number 318-300-1249 in order to let the CEOs of the big three know where you stand, to know that you stand with workers, that you stand with justice, that you stand with our brothers and sisters and the UAW and workers everywhere. Again, that number is 318-300-1249. This is a defining moment for workers everywhere, for people who are committed to a humane world, for people who believe that human potential and solidarity is so much more important than profit and greed. The lie of neoliberalism has come to be seen by all people. What the future will hold can be determined by all of us, by the workers. That is our job. That solidarity is required of all of us. Again, this is a moment for all workers. This is a moment for all people of conscience to come together in solidarity. And if you want more action steps, and there'll be more action steps after, text UAW to 30403 for updates and to learn how you can help in the coming days. Again, that is UAW to 30403. On behalf of the Working Families Party and all of our partners in the struggle, we salute you. Let's continue that fight. Solidarity.